Hello, I'm Mindy Fisher, and I am going to be doing my presentation on the theory of psychosocial development. Today I'm going to be talking about who developed this theory, discuss the reasoning behind the theory, discuss each stage of the theory, and at the end, I want you to be able to choose a stage that you believe is the most influential to an age group of students that you currently teach or would be teaching, and if there are any examples you have of a student struggling to complete a stage. The theory of psychosocial development was created by Erik Erikson, and he was a German-born American psychoanalyst. He was heavily influenced by Freud, and he's really better known for describing this type of development instead of explaining why or how he actually came to this. So before we start, it's probably important that we talk about what is psychosocial. Well, it's defined as the psychological development of the individual in relation to his or her social environment. And when we take a look at these different stages, we're going to see how that develops at each stage. So what does his theory state? Well, it states that throughout our life, we go through various stages where we meet psychosocial challenges. At the end of every stage, there is what he called a crisis. And that means that the person is ready for the next stage if they can complete it successfully. If the stage is not completed, it can result in the inability to complete further stages, as well as perhaps have an unhealthy personality. If they cannot complete a stage, it's important to remember that they can complete it at a later time. So as we take a look at the 8 stages of Erikson's theory, it's color-coded. Okay, and as we take a look at this, I want you to take a look at the approximate age that they've been grouped into and the psychosocial crisis that they eventually will come to. So the first one we're going to talk about is from infant through 18 months in terms of age. The next one is from 18 months to 3 years. After that is between 3 and 5 years. Next we come to 5 to 13. Sometimes it is 5 to 12. From there to about 18 to 21. Anytime between there and 40. Then it steps to 40 to 65. And then anything over a 65 is really going to be your bottom stage in his theory. So we've talked about Erikson, a little bit about his background. We talked about what is psychosocial. I've given you a description of the different stages that happens. And so now I'd like to go through them individually. The first stage, like I said before, is the infancy stage, which is from the age of 0 to about 1.5 years. Now something to keep in mind as we go through this is that the ages right here are approximate. It may vary just a little bit from person to person. In this stage, the crisis is trust versus mistrust. And basically our highlights of this stage include the infant itself is looking to the primary caregiver for stability and care. If the infant receives consistent and reliable care, the infant will develop a sense of trust. The ultimate goal here is for the infant to have success, which will eventually lead to hope. If it can trust the people that's caring for it, it will lead to hope. If failure happens at this stage, it can lead to insecurities and obviously mistrust around the infant. If they successfully complete this stage, on to stage 2. Stage 2, the crisis here is autonomy versus shame, and it really happens between about 1.5 years or 18 months to 3 years. The highlights of this stage is the independence of the child begins at this stage, where they're discovering new skills and their abilities, they're figuring those out. If the child is encouraged and is supported, it will allow them to be secure and confident. If there is success, it will lead to the virtue of will. If not, it's going to lead to inadequate feelings and lack of self-esteem. So already between the first moving into the second stage, we can already see where if these stages aren't completed, it can really alter a child's development. As they move through the ages of 3 to 5, they're concerned with stage 3, which is the initiative versus guilt. As the child becomes more active, it's important in this stage that parents allow the child to develop initiative and really make their own decisions and get that ability in doing so. If they are able to do that, this is going to lead to having a purpose, which is really what we want the child to have. If not, the failure will slow the child's interaction with others or inhibit creativity. Now, this is the stage that you're going to see primarily at the preschool level. Moving on, we come to a wider age group here, between 5 and 12 years. Now, this is industry versus inferiority. Here at this stage, as a child is in school, they will feel the need to have approval of things that are valued in society. They will also need to be reinforced of these initiatives and be encouraged. If the student has or the child has success at this level, they accomplish competency. If they fail, then it's going to lead to the child doubting their abilities. Now, this is going to fall in the range of the elementary school age, and as a teacher, I'm sure some of you have seen this with some of your students. Stage 5 ranges from about 12 to 18. Some you're going to see between 12 and maybe 21. But in this stage, we're really looking at ego identity versus role confusion. And during this stage, the child is really trying to figure out who they are, both sexually and occupationally, as they become more independent and transition from adolescence to adulthood. Now, anyone who teaches middle school or even high school can see this on a daily basis, especially in the middle school. Now, teaching middle school, I see this constantly, where kids are trying to figure themselves out. If they do accomplish success, they're going to have the virtue of fidelity. If not, unfortunately, we see the rebellion and the unhappiness. Those first 5 stages are really in a child's young life. The last 3 are in the later parts of life. So stage 6 is between about 18 to 40 years. And in this stage, it's intimacy versus isolation. So as a person begins to explore relationships on a long-term scale, maybe being committed, their success is going to lead to love. And if there's failure, it can lead to loneliness, isolation, and even depression. Stage number 7 goes into adulthood from the ages of 40 to 65. And the crisis here is generativity versus stagnation. And really what a person is doing at this stage is they're trying to find their establishment in life. Meaning, are they giving back to others? Are they happy? Are they successful? If they're successful at this stage, they're going to care. If they fail, it can lead to feeling unproductive. Anywhere between the ages of 65 all the way through death, this is the final stage. So stage 8 has to do with ego integrity versus despair. Really, they're looking back at their life. Is there a sense of accomplishment? Is there not? If so, they're going to have wisdom. And if not, it can lead to hopelessness and even that sense of failure, even later in life. So as we go through the 8 stages, 1 through 8, you can see how we transition through the different age groups of life. To kind of have a wrap up here, like I just said, the 8 stages of his theory of psychosocial development. At the end of each stage, there will either be success or failure, as mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. If there's a failure, there can still be success later on in life. I would like to apologize about that announcement. Success will lead to virtues. I talked about that. While failure can inhibit personality. So how does this fit into the classroom? Well, for the majority of us, we're either going to fall into the elementary, middle, or high school age groups. So as I mentioned before, elementary is going to focus on the need to have that achievement and relationship with their peers. Prior to that, in the preschool stage, they're looking to develop that personality. In adolescence, the focus in the classroom really needs to facilitate that self-esteem and identity with those students. And as teachers, we can play an important role in their classrooms, or in our classrooms, to help facilitate children have success at these different stages when they come through with us. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.